Good morning and welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Our call to community for February is Everything Hurt is Healed Again, here performed by our own Rainier Reunion.
Everything hurt is healed again in a new time, in a new day. Everything lost is found again in a new form, in a new way. Everything hurt is healed again in a new time, in a new day. Everything lost is found again in a new form, in a new way. Everything hurt is healed again in a new time, in a new day. Everything lost is found again in a new form, in a new way. Everything hurt is healed again in a new time, in a new day. Everything lost is found again in a new form, in a new way.
Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Mia Shaughnessy, and it is my great joy to be gathering with you this morning, along with our minister, Reverend Christopher. Steve Bennett is our tech expert today, connecting us virtually as we continue to monitor the pandemic situation and yearn to be together again. It is a blessing to be able to worship together and to be here with all of you today. If you are with us for the first time or the first time in a while, welcome. We are so glad that you are here to share in this time, to make some space in your life, to attend to your heart and your spirit, to come together in community. Please visit our website to fill out a Getting to Know You welcome form so that we can send you our weekly electronic newsletter, The Westside Week, which is full of information about upcoming worship services and other virtual activities. We hope that you'll join us after the service for congregation and community, catching up with everyone and seeing warm faces on this mild February day. We gather today from many locations, and we take this moment to particularly acknowledge that our congregation resides on the traditional territory of the Duwamish people. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the Duwamish heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us all. May we nurture our relationships with our coastal Salish neighbors, especially the Duwamish people, and our shared responsibilities to this place. Let us take a moment to offer humble respect for this place and its peoples, and renew our commitments to the work of authentic reconciliation.
Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we make to one another, commitments we make to healing a hurting world within and beyond our walls. Good morning. I'm going to open today with words from the Reverend Katie Kandarian Morris that we've adapted a little bit, called Hoping and Trusting for So Many Things. Here we have come into this sacred time, quieter now with our readiness, hushed voices, hoping, trusting for so many things, for connection, for communion, for inspiration, for transformation, for healing, for wholeness, for words, for music, for celebration and consolation. Here we have come into this time bringing all of who we are, ready to be moved, ready to be more. Let us be willing, however we are changed.
As we light our chalice this morning, I'd like to share these words from Ma Tet Gustilo Gallardo. Wake up, O my soul. It takes energy to stand and defiantly stand against voices that wear me down. Wake up, O my soul. It takes the force of my will to take charge of my life and do what I can. Wake up, O my soul. It takes a choice on my part to act or be still, to learn to receive as well as to give. Wake up, O my soul. Through the movement of my soul and my heart, I can change my mind. Wake up, O my soul. When I recognize what is good in others, I magnify the force of good. Wake up, O my soul. As Reverend Christopher lights our chalice, please join me in speaking the words of our congregation's affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Thank you, Mia. Our opening hymn this morning is Be Like a Bird, which uses the words of a poem by Victor Hugo. Here, the Rainier Reunion offering Be Like a Bird.
Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb too slight, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb too slight, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb too slight, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings. Be like a bird who, halting in her flight, on a limb too slight, feels it give way beneath her, yet sings, knowing she has wings, yet sings, sings, knowing she has wings.
I absolutely adore Eric Carle and the stories that he told. The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a simple children's story, but it teaches children how to count and learn the days of the week. It's a simple children's story, but Eric Carle's beautiful book is widely regarded as one of the best children's books ever written. When we read The Very Hungry Caterpillar, it's really easy to become kind of fixated on the story as it comes along. We're captivated by all the things the hungry caterpillar is eating, and we think that that's what the story's about until we get to the last page. And it turns out it's actually a story of transformation. We pay all kinds of attention to how the caterpillar is growing, but beyond our imagination is the reality that the destiny of this caterpillar is something else entirely. This is the larger reality, that the caterpillar is destined for the winged life, is destined for the butterfly's life. And as much as that's the true story of the book, it's also the beginning of the true story of ourselves, that we are also destined for that kind of transformation, that we have within us that power to go into the cocoon and emerge something new, something transformed. It would be wise for us to take this simple children's story and to think about its deeper meanings, its higher aspirations. The caterpillar, from the moment it hatches, is on an incredible journey that it can't imagine, and the same can be true for us. The journey is simply this: from no life to caterpillar life, to cocoon death, to butterfly transformation. I find myself in hearing the story and reading it again. It's funny, the very first time you hear it, it's a surprise at the end, the transformation. And in every reading afterwards, you sit in anticipation and excitement, just waiting for that moment when it fulfills, that caterpillar fulfills its destiny. But what's more miraculous? That the caterpillar enters the cocoon, and from the cocoon comes to fly? Or is it maybe just leaving the egg to enter the world as a caterpillar? We must first choose life and then choose transformation. We are, all of us, invited at any point in our lives to ask that question of ourselves: where am I in this cycle of transformation? Am I caterpillar? Am I within the egg? Am I in the cocoon? Am I waiting to be born anew? Am I the butterfly? Where are you? Where are you in this story that might not have been told if Eric Carle hadn't had an epiphany while putting holes in a stack of paper? Where are you? Are you in the egg? Are you the caterpillar? Are you in the chrysalis? Are you about to come forward with your profound longing? Where are you? We gather as intergenerational community, we gather with our children to ask these kinds of questions. Where are you, and where are you going? What do you want to be? And can you imagine yourself the caterpillar on a leaf, looking up at a butterfly flying above and saying, that will be me one day? And what might that look like? Our religious exploration program here at Westside is designed to engage children in these questions, to engage families in these questions, to live our lives into deeper purpose and meaning. I invite you to be in touch with me at minister@wsuu.org if you'd like to talk about the future direction of our religious education program as we imagine ourselves in the cocoon now, wondering what might come forth in the days to come.
In a moment, we will engage in a collective act of generosity known as our offering, when we take time to actively support Westside UU and its many ministries with our gifts by text or by check. Each month, we choose a community organization to share 1/3 of our undesignated offering gifts. That is, those donations not designated as your pledged contributions. For the month of January, our giving recipient is Unitarian Universalist Trauma Response Ministry. UUTRM was formed in 2002 to provide timely, multi-level, culturally sensitive spiritual care to survivors of mass disasters and other critical incidents that may lead to significant trauma. We work to educate individuals, congregations, and other groups on culturally and spiritually sensitive responses to critical incidents of... Sorry, I got a little mixed up there. We provide resources, including the deployment of critical incident stress management, CISM, teams to assist congregations and the communities they work within in the wake of mass disaster and other significant critical incidents. Westside parents and staff were blessed by the support of the UU Trauma Response Network last summer with consultation and support and a listening and resource session they offered for parents of children in the congregation following the death of Seni Wal O'Hogan, a young member. This kind of support is one of the benefits of being part of a broader community of congregations, and we are grateful for their support, and may we be generous with supporting them. You can give by text by sending a message with the $ amount that you want to give to 616-404-4171. If you need to update your payment information, text update to that same number. Thank you to everyone for giving as you are able to support Westside and Unitarian Universalist Trauma Response Ministry. Your generosity of time, treasure, and presence are gifts that sustain us as a community. We are blessed this week with an original composition from Chris McEwen called The Brave Fisherman. It will be performed by Chris and Lisa Maynard.
Good morning. This is a tune that I composed last weekend as a tribute to the Irish fishermen, whose traditional mackerel and prawn fishing season is now off the northern shores of Ireland. And if you've been following news during the last half of January, the Russian Navy had parked themselves in these sensitive fishing waters in order to do war game operations. And a delegation representing the Irish fishing industry went to the consulate, the Russian consulate in Ireland, and thought they had achieved an agreement that the Navy would move on. But once that conference was over, Russian government decided no, they wouldn't move. But the fishermen decided they would simply go out and fish in their normal fishing season, in their normal fishing place, and insisted that the Navy move it along. And they did. And so I was really captivated by this kind of triumph of kind of moral stance taking and the worker achieving their just the rights to do their normal work in their normal way, and a military installation deciding to leave and let them do that. So this tune, The Brave Fisherman, is a march. It's in honor of that event in history.
That was gorgeous. Thank you so much, Chris and Lisa. May they fare well, those Irish fishermen. It comes now to the time in the service when we seek to call to mind, to call to the fore of our hearts, the joys and sorrows of those who make up this community. We had one joy that was shared this week, Friends, there is great joy in the world. There is reason for laughter and happiness and wonder. And there is sorrow and hard times, and we hold each other in both. I invite you in this moment to take some time to center in your heart and in your prayers and in your thoughts those in this congregation who would benefit from your love, and send it their way.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Thank you for the gesturing to remind me that my mic was muted. This being the first Sunday of the month, we are engaging and practicing and coming to our new practice of learning a new spiritual practice in the first Sunday, first service of each month. We know that the work of the Spirit of growing into spiritual maturity is a process of transformation. Spiritual practices offer a chance to engage some of the deeper questions of our lives. They invite us to build up muscles of transformation. We know that the work of transformation is hard work, and it takes practice. And it takes disciplined practice, which is why sometimes we call these spiritual disciplines. Last month, we engaged in a practice called Lectio Divina, and I have to say I am so grateful to the folks who, throughout the month, who committed themselves to engaging each day in Lectio Divina as part of their day, and sent me and shared with me the poems that they read, the poems that they reflected on, and some of their thoughts on the poems. I was grateful to receive them and got to spend some time with some of those beautiful words. This month, Mia Shaughnessy is introducing us to a brand new practice that comes from the Buddhist tradition of Tonglen Meditation.
Tonglen is a Buddhist form of meditation that invites us to widen our compassion and be present and mindful of the very real pain and suffering that happens to each of us and in our world. It is a practice of sending and taking, to take on the hardship and pain in whatever form it has, and to send relief from that pain. This could be worldly collective pain that you are aware of. It could be pain from a specific situation or system, or maybe the pain of someone that you know that you would specifically like to help alleviate their struggle. We can also alleviate some of our pain with this practice, but part of what makes it such a beautiful practice is that if we do it together, you are already being sent the peace and happiness from others who wish to help lighten your load. I also want us to, without judgment of ourselves, consider what pain we personally have the capacity to transform. It's okay that not all of the suffering that we encounter is going to be transformable all at once. Maybe you only take on a bite-sized piece of it, or maybe we can alleviate a pain that we have learned the skills to neutralize in ourselves to start. Be courageous with your sending, but realistic about what we can take from others. There are 4 stages to Tonglen Meditation that I'll be walking us through. The first is to settle into the spaciousness of your mind. Take a moment to feel grounded in your body, stacked and strong, but relaxed and being mindful of your breath. Notice how the air flows into your body and back out. Find a state of openness and stillness with your breath. Now, as you inhale, imagine the prickly pain that others are struggling with right now coming into your body. Maybe it feels hot, maybe it's sharp, maybe it's like a dull but constant pressure, heavy or claustrophobic. You could visualize it as a thick smoke filling into your body that dissolves in your heart, or it could be raindrops and lightning bolts, rough textures to represent the emotions of those struggling. As you breathe it in, let it fill you up as it so often does when we feel these things ourselves, in through your pores and airways, sucking in the pain so as to not let it linger in the hearts and minds of others. And as you exhale, your heart and your body filters the smoke. The bright light of love that runs in your veins becomes a relief for others as you exhale it out. You exhale out this love and peace to replace the pain that you have pulled out of the world. With each inhale and exhale, visualize this process. Breathing in a heavy smoke, or maybe that storm of emotions of those suffering. And as you exhale, you filter and let out a peacefulness with every fiber of your being to help our fellow humans. A light, a glittery swirl, perhaps a blooming pathway of this positivity that you are sending. Inhaling and taking the suffering, exhaling and turning that pain into serenity. I like to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. The 3rd and 4th stages of this practice invite us to first take and send for a specific person or peoples in a specific situation, and then to slowly expand this practice outward more and more to cast our net of positivity wider. Can you let go of your own pain to help someone with theirs? Can you breathe in and transform the suffering of your next door neighbors? Can Can you take the suffering that exists within our congregation and send a wave of peace and stillness? Whose pain are you alleviating? What replacement are you sending to fill the void that's been created? What do you wish to be sent to you, and can you create that for others? How far can you send? Can you send a positivity so profound that it transforms somebody's pain who you may not personally know? Taking, sending. Taking, sending. And once again, taking, and sending. Thank you for practicing this with me today. May we move forward remembering that we can always pause and spend a moment practicing Tonglen. May your peace and love be transformational.
Thank you, Mia. Our anthem today is a song called Blessed Motion, written by Annie Zylstra, and it'll be performed by the Rainier Reunion. Zylstra writes the following about her song. Blessed Motion is a four-part acknowledgement of the nature of life as an unpredictable, ever-changing movement toward itself. The melody came while squatting on a rock next to a fast-moving fork in the Trinity River, where salmon were in their first week of journeying to their spawning sites in Northern California. Martin Prechtel said after surviving the Guatemala earthquake of 1976, during which he witnessed the ground beneath him rising up and swallowing people and villages whole, that solid ground is a myth believed by people who live on the earth rather than in it. This idea has stayed with me through the years and provided inspiration for this song.
I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and in the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the wind of steady change, and in the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and in the ever-rolling ocean, I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the wind of steady change, and in the ever-rolling ocean, all moves on in perfect motion. All is changed and ever-rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever-rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever-rolling ocean.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Let's all take a breath together. To know that blessed motion. Forget your perfect offering, forget your perfect offering. Ring the bell that still can ring, ring the bell that still can ring. There is a crack in everything, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. I led the congregation in Tacoma in singing that song not long before I came to candidate to be your minister here at Westside. It's a favorite of mine, Anthem by Leonard Cohen. Earlier this week, I was standing in front of the church out on California singing the song to myself, maybe swaying a little back and forth as I tend to do when I'm singing, which I often don't even notice that I'm doing. On the front of the building, there's a crack in the parging that needs repair. As much as I love to preach the resilience of the dandelion, of the plants that emerge from between the tiniest cracks in the sidewalk, my appreciation for that resilience disappears when they're getting into the building's foundation, and I just want to tear them out. I was standing, looking at it, wondering, singing, and a woman came by with two kiddos, close in age to my own, out for a walk on what was turning into a lovely day. I said hello, we got to chatting. She asked what I was doing. I mentioned the crack and how I was wondering if maybe we should put up a little roof here to protect the building. Maybe then we could add a platform with some benches, somewhere that folks could sit and talk to their neighbors. She leapt at the idea, lamenting that the only place to stop and sit from her house all the way to Morgan Junction was at Cafe Ladro, just down the block. And well, you really should buy something if you want to sit there. And wouldn't it be nice to have somewhere to be able to sit with strangers or friends out on a walk and just talk without capitulating to the capitalist privatization of public space? I knew I'd found a friend in that moment. I agreed, and we both agreed about loving Cafe Ladro nonetheless. Then her kiddo asked if he would be able to sit and read there with the books from our little free library, and she wondered about a community pantry as part of it, and I thought about a little wayside pulpit, and on we went, and we were all excited about possibilities. And she turned to me and asked, "So what is this place anyway?" And I smiled to myself and I told her about us, about who we are and where we come from, about what we're trying to be and do in the world. I offered some of the ideas around limits and boundaries that I shared in last week's service, which I know many of you appreciated. And then she asked, "So where do you stand on God?" And I got to smile again because it takes me back to one of my favorite sayings about our faith, about our tradition. About a century ago, Louis Fisher, dean of the Rider Divinity School in Chicago, a Universalist seminary, was struggling with articulating issues of belief and identity with his faith. The Universalist denomination had recently celebrated its 150th anniversary of the arrival of one of its founders, John Murray, in America, and launched a campaign to double its membership. In truth, though, the denomination was in decline, split between conservative rural churches and progressive-minded urban ones. In his book, Which Way?, Fisher argued that we must evolve in light of new understanding, of new information. Universalists are often asked to tell where we stand, he wrote. But the only true answer that we can give to this question is that we do not stand at all. We move. It might be easy to think of this as a relatively recent development in our history, but the centuries-long story of this faith of ours has been an epic of evolution and constant change and transformation. Where most faiths are built around immutable claims for all time, the creeds that I read last week, our approach has always been to poke and prod at every belief, to test every claim in the light of reason, and with each generation assess anew what endures as true and worthy of our commitment and our devotion. The motto, Semper Reformanda, always being reformed, has been with us from our beginnings in the radical wing of the Reformation down to this present day. It's because of this that we often say that revelation is not sealed, or revelation is always emerging. For there are for us no particular holy books locked away with irrefutable answers. Instead, we belong to a tradition, a living tradition, according to the title of our hymnal, that has been a long and sometimes difficult dialogue about who we are and what we are becoming. Generation after generation, our radicals have been replaced by our reformers, always carrying forward our most sacred mission, to keep abreast of truth. What we hold to be true for our faith, we also hold to be true for ourselves. We too are constantly reforming. We too are constantly in the struggle of keeping abreast of the truth that is in our hearts, of seeking it, of recognizing it, of knowing it, of holding it, even when each of those stages may be accompanied by discomfort or change. Why else would the encouragement to spiritual growth be our third principle? We believe in being changed. We believe in transformation. Over the course of this month, we'll be exploring this theme of transformation from the personal to the social. So many of the examples that invite me into thinking about transformation come from nature. I wonder if that's true for you too. I think about Eric Carle's caterpillar and the butterfly. I think about a chick within the egg. Sister Alex Capitan writes in a post called Impossible Until It's Not, about the nature of the monarch butterfly. How does the caterpillar, Zister writes, how does a caterpillar know to form a chrysalis? Does it know what will happen to it when it does? Does it have any idea that its body will literally break down into a kind of genetic goop? That its tissues and very cells will disintegrate, that it will digest itself before being reborn in a completely new form? Is it terrified? Is it eager? Is it answering a call that only it can hear? The idea that any creature would willingly undergo such a destruction of itself seems impossible. But it's not. When a caterpillar breaks down inside its chrysalis, there are highly organized groups of cells that survive the destruction. These groups of cells first form when a caterpillar is still developing inside its egg, and then they wait, dormant, until it's time for the caterpillar to become a butterfly. Then they direct the process of transformation. Each tiny cluster of cells is in charge of a different body part: eyes, legs, wings, and so forth. These all-important groups of cells have a magical name. They're called imaginal discs. Imaginal discs. These cells carry the imagination of flight, of wings, of a new form and a new world, something deep within, held in just a couple of cells, that knows and directs the caterpillar's destiny. The caterpillar and the butterfly ask, what spirit, what cells within you know what you are to become? What will be your destiny, your destination? I think too about the chick within the egg, inside the darkness of that rigid container. It having consumed all of the food that's available to it, it has reached the capacity of its container. It is pressed in every direction, but it has no idea what's beyond that shell, that container that has been its life, and it can stay inside, starve and die, or it can break the shell, enter into the unknown beyond. Chicks often eat part of the shell on the way out, thereby making it truly impossible that they will ever return. For some, that's the definition of transformation, a change that cannot be reversed. Reverend Kirk Lodman Copeland writes, much of what we do in life involves either no change, we really do like our routines and habits, or first order change, which involves a logical extension between past and current practices. It's doing more or less of what we are already doing. First order change is reversible, which means it's relatively easy to change our mind and abandon the project. New learning is not required, and the story of what we are doing remains essentially unchanged. Second order change, on the other hand, is deciding or being forced to do something in a radically different way than you've done it before. It typically involves a new way of seeing things. It might begin informally, but it does require new learning and the creation of a new story to explain and make sense of things. And it involves transformation, which is to say profound qualitative changes in who you are and what you do, changes that make a discernible difference. Real second order change is irreversible because the avenues to returning to the old way are no longer viable options. This is to say that we won't go back even if we could, because the old story no longer works for us. So often after we accumulate small changes, we eventually reach a change that cannot be reversed. And we make that choice or we don't. We are transformed or we go back to where we were. We enter the chrysalis or we don't. We break the shell or we don't. The poet Margaret Avison wrote in a poem called The Swimmer's Moment the following. For everyone, the swimmer's moment at the whirlpool comes. But many at that moment will not say, this is the whirlpool then. Sorry, I lost my place there. Give me just 1 second. I'll start again from the beginning. For everyone, the swimmer's moment at the whirlpool comes. But many at that moment will not say, this is the whirlpool then. By their refusal, they are saved from the black pit and also from contesting the deadly rapids and emerging in the mysterious and more ample further waters. And so their bland blank faces turn and turn pale and forever on the rim of suction they will not recognize. Of those who dare the knowledge, many are whirled into the ominous center that gaping vertical seals up for them an eternal boon of privacy, so that we turn away from their defeat with a despair not for their deaths, but for ourselves, who cannot penetrate their secret, nor even guess at the anonymous breadth where one or two have won the silver reaches of the estuary. We come to religious community with a deep yearning for more meaning, more purpose, more connection. We come with holy discontent and the desire for transformation. As Copeland writes, using the journey metaphor, we come in search of a path and fellow pilgrims to accompany us on the journey. To dive with us into Avison's whirlpool, daring that knowledge, that life of the mystics. Unitarian Universalist minister Michael Schuler writes that people come to our churches because they've become frustrated with a life that feels shallower, more tedious, less intrinsically meaningful than it should. They want a fresh perspective, a renewed sense of purpose, the possibility of greater daily gladness. I have a friend and a colleague who shared with me a story once of his neighbors down the street who'd joined his congregation seeking that renewed sense of purpose, the possibility of greater daily gladness. They had decided to make some changes in how they were living their lives, and coming to church was part of that pursuit. The two women were lovely, progressive, generous folks, but they told him they were increasingly feeling like their lives were maybe kind of like an ill-fitting sweater, that their actions and values didn't go together just right. They talked about it around their food choices, around their transportation choices, around their vacationing, how and among whom they were raising their children. And they decided to make changes. So they were committing themselves to new activities, to revising the patterns and rhythms of their lives and the choices they were making, and asked if he could help. So he gave them some books and talked about it a little with them, and they thanked him and off they went. And about a year down the line, they sat down with my colleague again and talked about how much things had changed in their lives over this year. They'd changed their food buying to align with their values. Their kids had committed parts of their allowance to charitable causes. They'd traded in their second car for an e-bike and many more small changes that cumulatively had them feeling very differently. These may sound like small changes and not truly transformational. After all, those are all practices that can be reversed. You could sell the e-bike and buy a car again. You could stop giving charitably. You could stop being generous. You could go back to your previous choices of how you interacted with the natural world. But significantly, they knew that their spirit, their outlook, their way of being had changed and was changing still. They'd come to recognize that if they paid attention, they could notice the times that their choices kind of made them feel a little itchy or irritated, a little signal of the incongruity between the story they told about themselves, about who they were, stories they told not just to others, but to themselves, and the reality of how their life was in practice. The transformation they were undergoing was an awareness of their desire and their capacity to live without that itch. We all have that ability to notice the itch, the irritation, the discomfort within ourselves when we say or do things that aren't what we aspire to, or what we understand ourselves to be, or yearn to be. And frustratingly, for people who want to make change, we have mechanisms in our brain that are designed to make that itch, that irritation, that noticing, that discomfort go away as quickly as possible. Our brain's immediate impulse is to find a way to justify our actions or our behaviors when they contradict our values, so that we don't hold that tension that we call cognitive dissonance. So many of the spiritual practices, like mindful meditation, are about encouraging our minds and our bodies to be able to notice the itch, the discomfort, to not resolve it, to not make the discomfort go away in the split-second pulse of some neurons, but instead to listen to what that discomfort has to offer us. And the more we know of ourselves, the more we are able to stay in that space or recognize when we're approaching it. One of the most valuable tools I found in my training in adult education or andragogy was what they called the learning zone model. I'm going to put it up on the screen now for you. As you can see, it has 3 zones: comfort, learning, and panic. What the model illustrates is how we have areas of comfort, of learning, and of panic. At the center in the comfort zone is the place of life that feels most comfortable, the easiest, where there is little or no challenge. Beyond that is the learning zone, where we do what the mission of this congregation calls us to expand our minds and our hearts. And beyond that is the panic zone, where learning and growth ceases because all of the signals of risk and anxiety have gone off, and we're reverting to fight, flight, freeze, or appease, the responses that come from our most basic threatened brain. We, each of us, can only grow and learn in that middle space, in that middle way. If everything is comfortable, there's no growth happening, no possibility of transformation. If everything is triggering, there's likewise no space to feel secure, to be able to trust that the cocoon can hold us, that we will emerge. In that middle space between comfort and panic lies our hope. Semper reformanda, that piece of our faith that says we are always reforming, that we are not standing but moving, requires of our congregations that we be able to move beyond comfort, that we learn where the triggers are that push us to panic and how then to stretch that area of growth larger still. And our congregations require it of each of us, if we are to live into the full promise of this beloved, beautiful, sometimes difficult faith of ours. Our congregations have to be able to make those changes, and so too do we. Maybe it begins with pulling plants from the cracks, putting a roof overhead, and letting our hearts run wild. Maybe it starts with moving into the cocoon. Maybe it starts with breaking the shell. May it be so. Blessed be and amen as we begin.
Oh, man. Please join us in singing our sending hymn, Woyaya. It's number 1020 in the hymnal. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, 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 oh yeah, yeah.
I'd like us to watch one final reading for this service today. It's a beautiful video called Iterations, a Musical Journey.
Have you seen my old self? I think I must have lost her. I wonder if I cost her life. Have you seen my second self? She seems to grow younger, more delicate than ever, but never better. I'm an experiment. Each trial is a test, constant recalibration. I am recycled cells. I learn to like myself more with each iteration. Where's my restore point? Found an old sore point, all disjointed, my file corrupted. Where is my replacement part? I need another new heart. The other one's beat was interrupted. I am recycled cells. I learn to like myself more with each iteration. I'm an experiment. Each trial is a test, constant recalibration.
I like myself more with each iteration. Thank you to the Rainier Reunion, Chris, Lisa, Liz. I always love the music that you provide to us on Sunday mornings.
Thank you, Mia. It is always a pleasure to do this work with you. And it is always a pleasure to gather with all of you online. I am so grateful that you invite us into your living rooms, into the cell phone perched on the dashboard of your car, wherever you may be participating and part of this community. You are welcome, and we are grateful. The theologian Cynthia Bourgeault says that Jesus came to help people awaken, but awakening is not that easy. And as a Moshel Meshalim, a master of wisdom, Jesus had mixed success. As the four Gospels all record, some people glimpsed what he was saying while others missed it altogether. Some people got it part of the time and missed it the rest. Some people woke up and others remained asleep. Some people woke up and others remained asleep. Buddhist teachers often describe our deluded experience of life as a waking sleep, in which we fixate on our illusory perceptions and remain oblivious to reality. The metaphor goes back to Siddhartha Gautama, who is said to have woken up with his enlightenment, earning the name Buddha, meaning one who is awake. As I release the flame, I invite you to join with Rainier Reunion in singing Long Time Sun, the sun that arises each morning as we awake. May you go into this week blessed and blessing the world. We hold you in our love as you go.
May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide you all the way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide you all the way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide you all the way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide you all the way on.